The wind howled across the dry, dusty plains of New Coyote. The twin suns of the distant galaxy beat down on the rough, cracked ground, where once proud cattle ranches had long turned to ruins. The small towns scattered across this barren landscape were wild, filled with outlaws, traders, and anyone looking to escape the law, or the law itself. This was a world on the edge of civilization, a place where survival meant more than just the will to live. It was about staying one step ahead of everyone else. Captain Ash Armitage, known as Dust to those who had heard his name whispered in dark corners, was one such man. He was a bounty hunter, tough as the leather of his worn-out duster jacket and sharp as the gun strapped to his side. His reputation had spread across several planets in this star system, and his name had become a symbol of fear for the criminals who dared to live outside the law. Ash didn't ask questions when it came to his bounties. He simply found them, captured them, and turned them in for the reward. That was how it had always been, and that was how it would always be, or so he thought. The town of Dusthaven was one of those small, desolate settlements in the heart of New Coyote, a place where the dirt roads were more familiar than the faces of its people. Ash had been tracking a fugitive for weeks, and the trail had led him straight here. He'd heard whispers about Cassidy Riker, a woman whose name stirred fear in even the toughest of men. She wasn't just a criminal, she was a legend. A former officer of the United Earth Coalition, who had turned against the very system she once served. Cassidy had become a figurehead for the outlaws of New Coyote, and Ash had been hired to bring her in. He stepped off the transport ship, the heavy boots of his long, dusty coat kicking up the ground beneath him. The smell of sweat, dust, and whiskey filled the air. He didn't need to look around to know what kind of town this was. He had seen them before, places where the only thing stronger than the sun's heat was the thirst for violence. The kind of place where men and women alike lived in fear of getting caught in the wrong side of a fight. Ash made his way to the Red Star Saloon, a rundown watering hole where the locals went to drink away their troubles and forget their futures. He'd been here a few times before, but today was different. Today he had a job to do. Inside, the room was smoky and dimly lit. A few people sat at the bar nursing their drinks. Some glanced at Ash, but most didn't seem to care. To them, he was just another face in the crowd, a man with a gun who wouldn't hesitate to use it. At the far end of the bar, a woman sat alone, her back straight, her posture as cold and sharp as a blade. Her short, dark hair framed her face, and her eyes were hidden behind a pair of reflective goggles. She wore a jacket that looked like it had seen better days, but there was an unmistakable confidence about her, something that made the air around her seem charged. This was Cassidy Riker. Ash approached her, his boots making the floorboards creak beneath him. He could feel the tension in the room rise as he got closer, but he didn't flinch. He had faced down worse situations than this, but as he stood in front of her, the woman didn't even look up. She continued to sip her drink as if he were just another man in a long line of strangers. "You Riker?" Ash asked, his voice low but steady. Cassidy finally looked up, her goggles reflecting the dim light. There was something in her eyes that made Ash pause, but he quickly brushed it off. "This was business, nothing more. Who's asking?" Cassidy replied, her voice smooth like a predator sizing up its prey. Ash didn't answer immediately. He knew the kind of woman Cassidy was, sharp, quick-witted, and always a step ahead. It was why she was so dangerous. But he had a job to do, and he wasn't about to let her get away again. "I'm here to collect a bounty," Ash said, his hand resting on the handle of his pistol. "I'm guessing you know why I'm here." Cassidy's lips curled into a half-smile, but she didn't speak. Instead, she took another slow sip of her drink, letting the silence hang between them for a few moments longer. Ash was starting to feel the weight of the tension in the room, but he didn't let it show. Finally, she spoke, her voice dripping with amusement. "Cowboy, is your mind always between my legs? Is that why you look so lost out here?" Ash blinked, taken aback by the unexpected jab. It wasn't what he had expected. But then again, nothing about Cassidy Riker had ever been predictable. "I'm not here to play games," Ash replied, his voice cold. "I've got a job to do, and I'm not leaving until it's done." Cassidy tilted her head, studying him for a long moment. Then with a sudden fluid motion, she stood up and placed her drink down on the counter. The room seemed to hold its breath, waiting for what would happen next. "You think you're the only one who's good at this?" she asked, her voice low and dangerous now. "You think you're the only one who can track, who can fight, who can take down the bad guys?" Ash didn't respond. He was used to people underestimating him, thinking they could get the better of him with a few words. But Cassidy wasn't just anyone. She was a former soldier, a strategist, and a leader of outlaws who had outsmarted many bounty hunters before him. Ash knew he had to be careful. This wasn't just a simple capture. "You don't know who you're dealing with," she continued, her voice still laced with that same dangerous confidence. "You think you can walk in here and take me down? You think you know what I'm doing. You don't. You're just another man with a gun trying to make a name for himself." Ash could feel his jaw tighten. He had no time for her games. But then Cassidy took a step closer. Her eyes locked onto his. "I've got an offer for you," she said, her tone suddenly shifting to something more dangerous, more enticing. "You think you're here for the bounty? Maybe you're wrong. Maybe we can help each other. You're looking for justice. I'm looking for freedom." The saloon was quiet now, the tension palpable as the two stood facing each other. Ash felt the weight of her words, but he didn't let it sway him. He was a bounty hunter. He didn't do partnerships. "I'm not interested in your games," Ash said, his hand inching closer to his weapon. "I'm taking you in." End of story. Cassidy's smile widened, but she didn't move. "You're a stubborn one, cowboy," she said, her voice low and laced with challenge. "Let's see how long that lasts." The sun had set over New Coyote, casting long shadows across the dusty streets. Ash had been following Cassidy for days now, through the barren wastelands of the desert and the crumbling remains of old mining towns. But there was something different about this chase. It wasn't just about capturing her anymore. The more Ash learned about Cassidy, the more he began to question everything he thought he knew about right and wrong. She was a skilled fugitive, always staying one step ahead, leading Ash through narrow canyons and hidden caves. She didn't make it easy. At times, Ash thought he was getting closer. He could almost feel her presence, hear the faint echo of her steps just out of reach. But Cassidy was always quicker, always smarter. Ash had to admit, he was impressed. The night was colder now, and the stars above New Coyote were brighter than he had ever seen. Ash sat beside a campfire, his thoughts drifting back to the words Cassidy had spoken in the saloon. "You think you're the only one who's good at this? You think you know what I'm doing?" Her words had stung, though he wouldn't admit it to anyone, not even himself. She had a point. Ash had always believed that he was the one who knew best, the one who could get things done. He had been a soldier in the United Earth Coalition, fighting for what he believed was justice, only to leave when he realized how corrupt the system really was. Now he was a bounty hunter, a man of few words and fewer ties, traveling from one planet to the next, always looking for his next job. But Cassidy was different. She wasn't just a criminal. She wasn't just a fugitive. She was someone who fought for something greater than herself. Someone who believed in freedom, the kind of freedom that Ash had once fought for, but had lost along the way. Ash sighed and poked the fire with a stick, watching the flames flicker and dance in the night. He had to catch her. That was the job. But a small part of him was starting to wonder if it was worth it. What if Cassidy was right? What if the real criminals weren't the outlaws like her, but the people who controlled the galaxy from behind closed doors? The next morning, Ash was awake before the sun. He had gotten used to this rhythm of hunting and being hunted. He packed up his gear, securing his gun and extra supplies, and began to follow the tracks Cassidy had left in the sand. She hadn't tried to cover her trail this time. It was almost as if she wanted him to catch up. By midday, Ash found himself standing at the edge of a cliff, staring down into a narrow canyon. The wind howled through the rocks, carrying the scent of earth and dust. Cassidy was there, waiting for him. She didn't look surprised to see him. She never did. Her back was to him, her face hidden by the shadow of her wide-brimmed hat. She was sitting on a rock, cleaning her gun with the same care and precision she gave to everything else. "You're getting close, Cowboy," she said, not looking up. Ash's fingers tightened around the handle of his gun. "This ends now, Riker. You can't keep running forever." Cassidy finally looked up, her eyes hidden behind dark goggles. But Ash could still feel the intensity of her gaze, like she was looking straight through him. "I'm not running, Ash," she replied, her voice calm and measured. "I'm fighting for something." Ash stepped closer, his boots crunching on the gravel beneath him. "What are you fighting for? Freedom, justice? I don't have time for your speeches, Cassidy. I've got a job to do." Cassidy stood up slowly. She didn't move toward him, but there was something about the way she held herself, like she was ready for anything. You think I'm a criminal, don't you? You think I'm just another outlaw, causing trouble for the system. But you're wrong. The system is the problem. I'm just trying to survive. Ash's brow furrowed. What are you talking about? Cassidy walked toward the edge of the cliff, her boots echoing in the silence. The United Earth Coalition doesn't care about people like us. They never did. All they care about is control. They use us, our worlds, our resources like we're nothing. And anyone who stands in their way gets crushed. That's why I left. That's why I fight. Ash stood still, his mind racing. He had always believed in the UEC back when he was a soldier. He had fought for them, killed for them, thinking he was doing the right thing. But Cassidy's words had a ring of truth to them. He had seen the corruption firsthand, how the rich and powerful in the coalition didn't care about the people they were supposed to protect. They only cared about their own interests. You think you're the only one who's seen the ugly side of the UEC? Ash asked, his voice quieter now. I left for the same reason. I saw what they were doing and I couldn't be a part of it anymore. But that doesn't mean I'm going to help you tear everything down. Cassidy turned to face him, her eyes locked onto his. Then what are you going to do? Keep chasing me? Keep hunting me like some kind of animal? You don't even know what's really going on, Ash. You're just a pawn in their game. Ash's mind was spinning. The more he listened to Cassidy, the more he began to question everything he had believed in. Was he just another cog in the machine, blindly doing his job without understanding the bigger picture? Cassidy's voice softened. You're not a bad man, Ash. You just don't see the truth yet. You've been on the wrong side for too long. Ash didn't know what to say. He had never considered himself a hero, but he had always tried to do what was right. Now, standing before Cassidy, he wasn't sure anymore. You don't have to be a part of this system anymore, Cassidy said. You can help me. Together we can make a difference. We can fight back. Ash looked down at his boots, his mind swirling with doubt and confusion. He had never thought of himself as a freedom fighter. He had always thought of himself as just a man who got the job done, no questions asked. But Cassidy was right about one thing. He couldn't keep running from the truth forever. I don't know, Ash muttered, his voice low. I don't know what to believe anymore. Cassidy took a step closer, her hand resting on his shoulder. You don't have to make a decision today, Ash, but think about it. The real enemy isn't me. It's the people who want to keep us under their control. And if we don't stand up, we'll never have a chance. Ash looked up at her, his heart heavy with the weight of her words. For the first time in a long while, he wasn't sure what the right thing to do was. But one thing was clear. This wasn't just about a bounty anymore. This was about something much bigger. Cassidy was offering him a chance to make a real difference. The question was, would he take it?